Most major manufacturers of ductless product require triple evacuation of their equipment. This assures a clean, dry system before charging with refrigerant. Check with your equipment supplier for recommendations on evacuation procedures. The main reason ductless manufacturers require triple evacuation for their systems is because liquid line filter dryers are not used because of the unique refrigerant metering that takes place in a ductless system. By using the triple evacuation method and breaking the vacuum with nitrogen, you are assured of a clean, tight, and dry system that will give your customer many trouble-free years of comfort. This is a page out of one of the major manufacturers' training websites, and you'll notice that for ductless equipment, they call out the triple evacuation method as being recommended for dehydration of the systems. Once you have your line sets all hooked up and you're ready to go, the first thing you want to do is do a leak test to make sure that the system is tight before you start pulling a vacuum. Then after that, the triple evacuation method is preferred for ductless systems. So the procedure for triple evacuation is to first evacuate the system to 1500 microns, then break the vacuum with 2 psig of nitrogen. Let the system rest with a nitrogen charge. Then start the second evacuation to 1000 microns. Again, break the vacuum with 2 psig of nitrogen and let the system rest with a nitrogen charge. Then conduct the third evacuation down to 500 microns. At that point, check for a tight, dry system. If it holds the deep vacuum, then you're ready to charge the system. On this slide, we show the hookup for triple evacuation, and I'd like to point out that I usually do not recommend using a manifold gauge set to evacuate a system, but in this particular slide, that's what they're using. So we want to hook up our nitrogen to one side with a shut-off port so we can isolate the nitrogen tank. And on the other side, we want to have our vacuum pump with a micron gauge and also a shut-off valve so that we can valve off the vacuum pump and hold the vacuum while we're breaking the evacuation with a nitrogen charge. I have seen some ductless systems pulled down below 50 microns. You need to be careful in that deep a vacuum as compressor oil will begin to boil at about 200 microns. There is some disagreement regarding this statement, as in a true vacuum, liquids do not exist, and so you can't have boiling without liquid. But most major manufacturers recommend not pulling a vacuum below 200 microns. So this slide is showing that we are breaking our vacuum to about 2 psig with the nitrogen. And as we stated, you want to close the valve off to the pump so that we maintain our vacuum on the line set and open the valve to nitrogen, as the nitrogen will flow through the system and will remove the moisture that is in the system. In some previous videos that we've done on evacuation, we've mentioned the Appion Speed Kit, and we'll mention it again here as it's designed to be used mainly on ductless systems, and it has various fittings and hoses that you can use to speed up the evacuation on a ductless system. In most of my training on evacuation of HVAC systems, I talk about not using a manifold gauge set. The hoses on a manifold gauge set are too long and too skinny, and so it's better just to use fittings with the larger hoses to speed up evacuation time. Time is money, and so on a job where you need to pull a triple evacuation, by reducing the time of evacuation, it will make it a lot easier to get this job done quickly. So with this Appion kit, you can pull from both sides in a 2-port system, decreasing your time of evacuation. And on a ductless system with multiple ports, you can use the multiple fittings to pull from all ports, further decreasing your evacuation time. So the name of the game with evacuation is to reduce the evacuation time as much as possible. This chart shows us that if we're evacuating a 10-ton system to 500 microns and we're using a 6-foot 1/4-inch hose, and leaving the valve core in the service valve, it's going to take 40 minutes to reach 500 microns. But if we're doing it through a 6-foot 1/4-inch hose with a core removal tool and taking the core out, it'll reduce that 40 minutes to 19 minutes. We can reduce it further by using a 6-foot 1/2-inch hose with the core removed, and then our evacuation time to 500 microns will be 3 minutes. This may be breaking news to some people who have taken classes where you're told that nitrogen absorbs moisture. Well, breaking news, nitrogen does not absorb moisture. This is why we use the term sweeping the system with nitrogen. By moving nitrogen through the system after pulling a deep vacuum, it moves the oil, causing it to release more moisture being held in the oil and sweeps it out of the system. Nitrogen also warms the system after deep evacuation so that if any moisture is frozen, it will melt and be taken out of the system by the nitrogen purge. So by using the triple evacuation procedure on all ductless equipment, you can then charge the system with confidence that you have done due diligence to assure a clean, tight, dry system that will give your customer the confidence that the system you've installed for them will give them many years of trouble-free comfort. If you have any further questions regarding the proper evacuation procedures for ductless equipment, please contact your local equipment supplier and ask for their recommendations.
Go to arefco.com for more videos, like, subscribe, and check back every week for new videos.